Welcome everyone, to another electrifying episode of Restless Killers and Mysteries with Roger Heilig. I'm your host, Roger Heilig, and today we've got a riveting story that's been wrapped in controversy, intrigue, and a bit of poetic tragedy. Yep, you guessed it folks, we're diving deep into the unsolved murders of two of the most iconic figures in hip-hop history, Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G, also known as Biggie Smalls. Now, before we unlock the mysteries behind these shocking murders, I'd like to give a shout out to our amazing sponsor for today's episode, Beyond the Grassy Knoll, How JFK's Death Changed American Society Forever by A.M. Wolfe. You can find this insightful read on Amazon and Audible. If you think today's topic is fascinating, wait till you dive into the pages of that book. It's an eye-opener, trust me. Alright folks, let's get this show on the road. Imagine this, it's the 1990s. The world of rap and hip-hop is exploding with creativity, attitude, and a raw, unfiltered voice of the streets. It's a time of bold statements and iconic tracks that still resonate today. Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G weren't just rappers, they were cultural beacons, firestorm personalities who captured the zeitgeist of an entire generation. Their lyrics weren't just about the rhythm and the rhyme, they were about life, struggle, ambition, and survival. But amid their monumental successes, an undercurrent of rivalry and tension simmered. Tragically, this all came crashing down, leading to their untimely and still largely unexplained deaths. Tupac was gunned down in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas in 1996, and just 6 months later, Biggie met a similar fate in Los Angeles. These aren't just tales from the past, they are living, breathing mysteries that continue to haunt us, raising questions and theories that keep us up at night. Who was responsible? Why did the investigations hit dead ends? What do we still not know? In today's episode, we'll journey through the lives and careers of these two legends, explore the rise of the East Coast-West Coast rivalry, and delve into the shadowy circumstances of their murders. We'll also investigate why these cases remain unsolved decades later, and ponder the lasting impact these tragic events had on the music industry and beyond. So buckle up, true crime aficionados, and get ready to dive deep into one of hip-hop's most infamous real-life sagas. Because here on Restless Killers and Mysteries with Roger Heilig, we're about to explore the untold stories that keep the world restless. Let's set the wheels in motion by diving into the remarkable lives of Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G. Picture this. It's the 90s, the golden era of hip-hop. It's a time of baggy jeans, bold rhymes, and booming beats. Within this vibrant scene, two names reign supreme, Tupac and Biggie. But who exactly were these legendary figures, and how did their background shape their meteoric careers? First off, Tupac Shakur, or Tupac as he's widely known, was a whirlwind of talent and charisma. Born in 1971 in East Harlem, New York, Tupac was no stranger to struggle. His mother, Afeni Shakur, was a member of the Black Panther Party, a movement fighting for African American rights. This activism undoubtedly colored Tupac's worldview and ignited a spark for the social justice themes that would thread through his music. By the time he emerged on the scene, he was not just a rapper. He was a poet, actor, and messenger wrapped into one explosive package. With hits like California Love and Changes, Tupac's lyrics painted vivid pictures of life, love, and hardship, resonating deeply with listeners across the globe. Conversely, we've got Christopher Wallace, better known as the Notorious B.I.G. or simply Biggie. Born in Brooklyn in 1972, Biggie came from a Jamaican immigrant household and was raised single-handedly by his mother, Valletta Wallace. Biggie's journey was one of grit and grind. You'd find him at street corners, battle rapping his way through the harsh reality of Brooklyn streets. His narrative style and deep melodic voice set him apart. Tracks like Juicy and Big Papa are still anthems today. Biggie personified the rags to riches story and gave voice to his experiences in the rough and tumble world around him. Both emerged during a time when hip-hop was evolving from an underground movement into a colossal force that could no longer be ignored. In the cultural melting pots of New York and Los Angeles, these two rappers rose to prominence, encapsulating the essence of their cities. They were not merely artists, they were cultural icons, each embodying the spirit of their respective coastlines. It's crucial to grasp the social backdrop. The 90s were an era of raw expression and rebellion. Racism, economic disparity, and the struggle for identity in an America that often felt as though it was forgetting its urban youth were catalysts. Amid all this, Tupac and Biggie offered a mirror to society, reflecting both the triumphs and tribulations of Black America. Their music spoke of dreams and despair, thug life and ambition, unparalleled success, and unfortunate downfall. Tupac and Biggie's stories are not just those of individual artists, but a saga reflecting the struggles and hopes of an entire generation. Their influence stretched beyond music, seeping into movies, fashion, and even the political landscape. When you speak of the 90s hip-hop scene, you cannot do so without conjuring images of Tupac's fiery performances and Biggie's unparalleled lyrical flow. So, with that, buckle up as we delve deeper into their journeys, setting the stage for the stories, mysteries, and ripple effects that followed. We're just scratching the surface, and trust me, there's a lot more to uncover about the enigmatic lives and lasting legacies of these two rap titans. We all know that behind every iconic success story, there's a journey filled with hard work, talent, and a sprinkle of serendipity, and the stories of Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G. are no different. Let's buckle up as we rise to the heady heights of fame, accompanied by the beats and rhymes that defined an entire era, starting with Tupac Shakur, or Tupac as he was famously known. Born in 1971, he was the embodiment of an artist with something to say. His debut album, Tupacalypse Now, hit the shelves in 1991, signaling the arrival of a force to be reckoned with. Even in his early career, Tupac's lyrics weren't just for bopping along. They were powerful narratives about social issues, inequality, and the struggles of African American life. Think Brenda's Got a Baby and you'll get the picture. This was a man who used his platform to highlight hard truths. Then came the avalanche of hits, Keep Your Head Up, I Get Around, and the masterful Dear Mama. His music was more than just chart-topping tunes. It was poetry set to beats that resonated with people far beyond the typical rap audience. Tupac's charm, charisma, and outspoken nature quickly cemented his place in the pantheon of rap gods. And let's be real, his enigmatic personality offstage only added layers to his legend. A poet, a rebel, a man whose voice echoed the frustrations and hopes of many. Now, let's flip the vinyl to the East Coast and meet Christopher Wallace, better known by his moniker, the Notorious B.I.G., or simply Biggie. Born in 1972, Biggie's entrance into the rap scene was like a giant footprint on fresh snow, unmistakable and profound. His debut album, Ready to Die, dropped in 1994 and was a game-changer. Tracks like Juicy and Big Papa showcased his lyrical prowess, weaving autobiographical elements with a flair that made you sit up and listen. Biggie's deep, smooth voice narrated the hustler's life, his lyrics a raw depiction of street dreams and stark realities. He wasn't just about the glitz and glamour. His storytelling was vivid, painting pictures of both triumph and turmoil. Coupled with his iconic, laid-back delivery and a knack for crafting unforgettable hooks, Biggie's star rose quickly and impressively. What truly set Tupac and Biggie apart from their peers wasn't just their ability to churn out hits, though they did that in spades, but their unique artistic styles and personalities that captivated the masses. Tupac was the politically conscious poet and thespian. Biggie, the storytelling savant with a captivating flow. In a few short years, both rappers transcended the role of mere musicians to become cultural icons. They impacted the music industry profoundly, not just through their records but through the movements they inspired, the styles they defined, and the bold personalities they offered up on the world stage. Their fame wasn't solely built on their musical genius. It was built on the stories they told and how they told them, shaping the identities of millions of fans who saw their own lives reflected in the verses they rapped. And as the beats of their greatest hits still pulse through speakers worldwide, it's clear that Tupac and Biggie were more than just entertainers. They were the voices of a generation. Now, let's talk about the legendary feud that shaped the 90s music scene. The infamous East Coast-West Coast rivalry between Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G. It's almost Shakespearean in its tragedy and drama, and it played out under the spotlight of fame, fortune, and fast-paced lives. But how did it all begin? Let's rewind to the early 90s. Tupac, a West Coast rapper, and Biggie, an East Coast star, were initially friends. They bonded over their shared struggles and dreams at the height of a thriving hip-hop scene. But as their careers skyrocketed, so did the tension between them, fueled by misunderstandings, bold claims, and of course, the media. One of the key events that sparked the beef was the 1994 Quad recording studio shooting. Tupac was shot 5 times in the lobby of the New York studio, and he believed that Biggie and his entourage were involved, or at the very least, knew more than they were letting on. Biggie denied the accusations, but the wound had been cut too deep. Adding kerosene to the fire, Biggie released the song Who Shot Ya? Shortly after the incident. Although Biggie insisted that the track was not about Tupac, the timing fueled speculations and solidified Tupac's suspicions. Tupac fired back with Hit 'Em Up, a venomous track that left no doubt about his hostility toward Biggie and the entire East Coast rap community. This rivalry became more than just a personal feud. It evolved into an all-out war between two coasts. Record labels played their parts too, with Death Row Records under Suge Knight on the West Coast, and Bad Boy Records led by Sean Puff Daddy Combs on the East Coast stoking the flames. Both labels thrived on the controversy, which drove album sales and public interest to sky-high levels. High-profile incidents, like the 1995 Source Awards where Suge Knight took a jab at Puff Daddy in front of a riled-up audience, only cemented the bitter divide. Tupac and Biggie were at the epicenter, their every word and action scrutinized by fans, media, and even law enforcement. Sadly, this fiery rivalry had deadly consequences. Both Tupac and Biggie were gunned down in drive-by shootings within months of each other. Tupac in September 1996, Biggie in March 1997. Their deaths shocked the world and left a void in the hip-hop community that still resonates today. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry was a dramatic, tragic chapter in music history. It forever altered the landscape of hip-hop, leaving behind a legacy of extraordinary music overshadowed by extraordinary loss. Superstars and ordinary fans alike are still fascinated by this period, reflecting on what could have been if misunderstandings and hostilities hadn't spiraled out of control. Alright, let's dive into the dark, mystifying events that took place on the grim nights when we lost two of the most iconic figures in the rap and hip-hop world, Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G. Buckle up, because this tale is filled with intrigue, heartbreak, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. First, let's travel back to September 7, 1996. The neon glow of Las Vegas was dazzling. The casinos were packed, and the air was buzzing with energy. Tupac Shakur had just attended a Mike Tyson boxing match at the MGM Grand with Suge Knight, the head honcho of Death Row Records. Post-fight, things took a sinister turn. Tupac and Suge got into a heated altercation with a man named Orlando Anderson, a reputed Southside Compton Crip. Little did anyone know, this seemingly isolated brawl would set the stage for an even darker chapter. Later that night, Tupac and Suge were cruising down Las Vegas Boulevard in a black BMW, the kind you'd expect a rap superstar to roll in, when a white Cadillac pulled up beside them. The window slid down, and in a flash, shots rang out. Tupac was hit 4 times, once in the arm, once in the thigh, and twice in the chest, with one bullet puncturing his lung. It was chaotic, it was brutal, and it was over in seconds. Suge Knight miraculously escaped with minor injuries, but Tupac wasn't so lucky. He was rushed to the University Medical Center of Southern Nevada and held on for 6 days. But on September 13, 1996, the world lost Tupac Shakur. The immediate reaction was a mix of shock, grief, and a burning question. Who did it and why? The streets echoed with theories. Some pointed fingers at gang rivalries. Others whispered about record label wars. Fans and fellow artists poured their hearts out. Memorials sprang up, and tributes flowed in. Tupac had a voice that resonated with millions, and his sudden, violent departure left a gaping hole in the music community. Fast forward 6 months to March 9, 1997. The setting changes from the bright lights of Las Vegas to the bustling streets of Los Angeles. The Notorious B.I.G., or Biggie Smalls as many affectionately called him, had just attended a Soul Train Awards after-party. The party was lit, full of celebrities, and pumping with the latest beats. Little did anyone suspect that danger was lurking nearby. After the party, Biggie's entourage left in a convoy of SUVs. At around 12:45 a.m., they stopped at a red light at the corner of Wilshire Boulevard and South Fairfax Avenue. Suddenly, a dark Chevrolet Impala rolled up next to Biggie's vehicle. The driver, an unidentified African-American male in a blue suit and bow tie, drew a 9mm blue steel pistol and fired. Biggie was hit 4 times, with the fatal shot delivered to his chest. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center but was pronounced dead at 1:15 a.m. The aftermath of Biggie's murder mirrored that of Tupac's, an avalanche of sorrow and speculations. The rap community was stunned. Biggie wasn't just a heavyweight in hip-hop. He was a cultural titan. Vigils were held. His music soared up the charts posthumously. And yet again, the burning question resurfaced: who was responsible? For both Tupac and Biggie, the legacy of their murders isn't just the loss of life. It's a complex and deeply embedded chapter in the cultural fabric of hip-hop. The immediate reactions from fans and artists were profound. While the mainstream media dissected every possible angle, from gang clashes to East Coast-West Coast rivalries, the truth remained elusive. These tragic events didn't just snatch away 2 brilliant artists. They underscored the volatile intersection of music, culture, and crime. The gravity of their deaths sent shockwaves that transformed the industry. Record labels re-evaluated how they managed their artists. Musicians began to be wary of the dangerous fame game, and the audience mourned the end of an era marked by 2 transcendent talents. In the end, the chilling reality is that the murders of Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G. remain unsolved mysteries, ghosts of a time when the beats rolled hard, the lyrics cut deep, and the streets were far from safe. The impact of these deaths? It is still felt today, echoing through the corridors of hip-hop history, leaving behind voids that no artist, no matter how gifted, could ever fully fill. When it comes to the unsolved murders of Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G., the phrase "the truth is stranger than fiction" feels like an understatement. The investigations surrounding their deaths have left us with more questions than answers, numerous conspiracy theories, and a trail of breadcrumbs that seemingly lead nowhere definitive. Let's start with Tupac. On September 7, 1996, Tupac was in Las Vegas, attending a Mike Tyson boxing match. After the fight, Tupac and his entourage, including Suge Knight, head of Death Row Records, were driving to a nightclub. Tupac was in the passenger seat of a black BMW driven by night. At a stoplight, a white Cadillac pulled up and opened fire. Tupac was hit 4 times and succumbed to his injuries 6 days later. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department launched an investigation, but it was fraught with challenges. Witnesses were uncooperative. Street code meant that talking to the police was out of the question, and leads dried up quickly. Despite numerous theories ranging from gang retaliation to internal music industry politics, the case remains unsolved. Now let's talk about Biggie, also known as the Notorious B.I.G. On March 9, 1997, almost exactly 6 months after Tupac's death, Biggie was in Los Angeles, attending a party thrown by Vibe magazine. After the event, he and his entourage were stopped at a red light in a GMC Suburban when a dark-colored Chevy Impala pulled up and its driver fired shots. Biggie was hit 4 times. He was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at the hospital. Similar to Tupac's case, the LAPD faced obstacles in their investigation. Potential key witnesses either couldn't or wouldn't talk. There have been numerous theories and suspects, including dirty cops and rival gang members, but evidence that could pin down the perpetrator has never materialized. One of the most tantalizing theories involves the possibility of a connection between the 2 murders. Some suggest that Suge Knight orchestrated Biggie's murder in retaliation for Tupac's death. Investigative journalist Randall Sullivan and former LAPD detective Russell Poole have both posited this angle. Poole, in particular, spent years researching and maintaining that corrupt LAPD officers who worked for Death Row Records were involved in Biggie's killing. Another angle suggests that Tupac's death stemmed from a confrontation earlier that night involving Anderson, a member of the Southside Compton Crips, who supposedly had a personal vendetta against Tupac. Anderson was even named as a suspect by his own family members. However, Anderson was killed in an unrelated gang shooting in 1998 before solid evidence could tie him conclusively to Tupac's death. As if that's not enough to scramble your brain, add the fact that in the years following their deaths, both Tupac and Biggie have been the subjects of documentaries, books, and extensive investigative journalism. Some of these sources offer credible insights, while others tread into speculative territories that only serve to muddy the waters further. There's also the aspect of the FBI and their interest in the cases, driven largely by the fear that the East Coast-West Coast rap rivalry could escalate into a larger violent conflict. However, any files declassified have yet to provide a smoking gun that would solve either case definitively. In the end, what makes these murders unsolved isn't just the lack of evidence. It's the labyrinth of deceit, loyalty to street codes, and potentially corrupt systems that seem designed to keep the truth buried. Who was behind it all? We may never have a concrete answer, but as long as there are passionate fans and dedicated investigators, the search for justice for Tupac and Biggie continues. Their tragic ends have only amplified their legends, leaving us with an enduring mystery that, despite all efforts, refuses to unravel cleanly. And perhaps, that unresolved tension is part of why we remain so captivated by their stories. On the flip side, you have Biggie Smalls, aka the Notorious B.I.G. With his impeccable flow and mesmerizing storytelling, Biggie brought an unparalleled level of artistry to hip-hop. Tracks such as Juicy and Big Papa not only ruled the airwaves, but also set a gold standard for what rap could achieve, both musically and commercially. Biggie's talent for blending gangster rap with personal vulnerability made him stand out in a genre often characterized by braggadocio. Even today, you'll find his influence in the works of numerous artists who pay homage by adopting his narrative techniques and ingenious wordplay. The deaths of these 2 titans didn't halt their influence. Quite the contrary, it amplified it. Their untimely endings added an aura of mystique, turning them into legends whose stories are endlessly dissected and analyzed. Their music remains evergreen, their lyrics quoted by fans and fellow artists alike. And let's not overlook the biopics, documentaries, and countless conspiracy theories that keep their names in the limelight. Tupac and Biggie aren't just historical figures in the rap community. They are present tense, always relevant, always influential. In a broader cultural sense, Tupac and Biggie's deaths highlighted the intense divisions within the hip-hop community and underscored the need for unity and progress. Their stories helped shape discussions around violence, artistry, and accountability that continue to this day. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry they were embroiled in has since mellowed, but it forever changed the landscape of hip-hop, pushing artists to go beyond regional rivalries and embrace a more global perspective. Modern rappers like Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, and Drake have all cited Tupac and Biggie as influences, and their styles echo the social consciousness and storytelling prowess that Tupac and Biggie brought to the table. Whether it's through sampling their tracks, quoting them in lyrics, or carrying forward their ethos, today's artists keep the torch burning in new and creative ways. Finally, let's not forget the enduring influence on fashion and lifestyle. The streetwear and iconic looks popularized by these 2 rappers are still in vogue. From Tupac's bandanas and penchant for thug life tattoos, to Biggie's signature Coogi sweaters and Versace shades, their style sensibilities continue to be echoed in today's fashion trends. In summary, Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G. didn't just touch lives in the 90s, they sculpted a legacy that transcends time. Their music, their messages, and their mystique continue to resonate, reminding us that legends aren't made in life, but in how they're remembered after death. And if their influence on modern artists, ongoing cultural relevance, and indomitable spirit are any indication, Tupac and Biggie will be remembered for generations to come. Alright folks, that brings us to the end of today's deep dive into one of hip-hop's most tragic and enduring mysteries. We've walked through the lives of Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G., two titans of the music world who not only revolutionized rap but also became icons of cultural and social change. Their contrasting styles, from Tupac's raw, poetic rebellion to Biggie's smooth, masterful storytelling, captivated millions. We explored the East Coast-West Coast rivalry, a feud that went beyond personal vendettas and became a symbol of a divided music community. It was a tension that culminated in two violent, senseless acts that still leave us asking, why? The circumstances surrounding their murders are both haunting and frustratingly elusive. Tupac, gunned down in the heart of Las Vegas, and Biggie, struck down in Los Angeles, both met violent ends that remain shrouded in mystery. Investigations have been thorough yet fruitless, leaving their deaths as unsolved enigmas that continue to perplex fans, detectives, and conspiracy theorists alike. We also touched on the endless theories and potential suspects, from gang affiliations to possible law enforcement corruption, each more complex than the last. It's a sobering reminder of how much we still don't know, even after all these years. And what about their legacies? Despite their shortened lives, Tupac and Biggie's influence is immortal. Their music continues to resonate, inspiring new generations of artists and maintaining a critical role in our cultural dialogue. Through their art, they live on, touching lives and igniting conversations even today. So why do these cases still hold us in their grip? Maybe it's because they remind us of the fragility of life, or perhaps it's the stark reality of talent lost too soon. Whatever the reason, Tupac and Biggie's stories are not just chapters in music history. They are ongoing narratives that challenge us, intrigue us, and compel us to keep searching for the answers. Before we wrap up, I want to extend a big thank you to our sponsor, Beyond the Grassy Knoll: How JFK's Death Changed American Society Forever by A.M. Wolfe, available on Amazon and Audible. Dive into another historical mystery and see how it shaped the nation we live in today. That's all for this episode of Restless Killers and Mysteries with Roger Heilig. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the lives and untimely deaths of two of rap's greatest legends. Keep your curiosity alive, and until next time, stay restless.